Hello. I'd like to welcome you all to a session for Eastern religion participants, those of you that have signed up to come to an Eastern religion service. Um, so I'm aware that that there's different faiths. There may be different faiths in your group. My training, my background is primarily Buddhist, but anyway, I hope that what we have to offer here is going to be a benefit, maybe to a broader group. So anyway, welcome. My name is Terry Conrad. I'm a CVCA volunteer chaplain in the TDC, and I run a program called Project Clear Light, which is an outreach to primarily Buddhists, but I have, again, like I say, um, uh, incarcerates from different faiths also that participate in our programs. Uh, I work on the Ramsey unit, the faith-based arm of the Ramsey unit, and teach a couple of classes there. So anyway, let's kind of jump into it. I think the main characteristic of Eastern religions, how I would distinguish those, maybe the major distinguishing feature between Eastern religion, religious practices, and those that we more commonly associate with, like Christianity or Catholicism in the West, is the practice of meditation or contemplative practices. I'd like to actually put it in a little bit bigger category. So what is a contemplative practice? What are contemplative practices? Uh, Contemplate means to make inquiry, to study, to look over. So the three main qualities of contemplative practice are study. Number one, study. With sessions such as this, reading text, reading sacred texts, commentaries. Second is the contemplation or making inquiry. So taking what we've heard or what we've read and making application of that, um, making inquiry into that. How does this fit into my life? How can I use this? How is it beneficial? So study, then contemplation or inquiry. And then the third major practice in contemplative practices is meditation. So studies, we're looking outside of us, kind of looking at history, looking at the experience that other people have had. Study is kind of seeing how that applies to us. And meditation is then kind of going just within us. Okay, well, what's here? Uh, uh, Kind of who am I? That kind of that big, deep spiritual question. Who am I? And then looking at that in terms of what we've studied and our inquiry. So looking at that in light of the tradition itself. Okay. So commonly, Eastern religions practices are referred to as the Dharma. So the Dharma includes, the Buddha Dharma, the Hindu Dharma, Jain, uh, um, and other traditions, Baha'i, Sikh, other traditions that are commonly associated with Asia. Okay, Asia being India, China, Japan, Thailand, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Burma. So these Dharma teachings from all these traditions, these Dharma practices, are old. I mean, they've been around for a long time. So they're pretty tried and true. There's an enormous amount of wisdom, enormous amount of skillful means associated with any one and all of these traditions. So again, I'm going to be speaking mostly from the Buddhist point of view. I mean, that's my training. But hopefully you'll find application in whatever your faith happens to be. So what is Dharma? What do we mean by Dharma? Many translations here. One that you commonly hear is that which supports. Okay, well, what is being supported? Our life. So I think the more general understanding of Dharma is life. It is life experiences. What is the greatest teacher that we have? From what source are we learning the most, right? We're learning from study, no question. We're learning from making inquiry. We're learning from our meditation. But the greatest source of our learning is our life experience. So that works both ways, doesn't it? Some of the things we learn are really helpful, and some of the things we learn maybe aren't so helpful, maybe aren't so beneficial. But Dharma in general is learning from our life, seeing that the greatest teacher is really already within us. We just want to be more skillful with that. Want to be able to use our life experience in ways that are beneficial for awakening. So Dharma then is life experience and awakening, right? Lessons, practices, teachings, instructions, wisdom, skillful means of taking our life and using it to awaken, become awakened. Okay. How do we do this? The first thing that the Dharma is offering us is to notice our habits, how we become habituated, giving us a framework for kind of understanding how habits work. Okay, so we have kind of three kind of different levels or categories of habits. Probably the most obvious is physical habits, right? Also apparent is our mental habits, and maybe a little bit more subtle, our emotional habits. So what is it about habits? Habits can either cause us to suffer or cause us to awaken. So one of the things we're doing then is noticing habits that are causing us difficulty. Okay. So physical habits will cause, the suffering caused by physical habits is going to be probably illness, losing physical, or losing our physicality, our health, okay, losing health. Mental habits are going to cause us conflict, okay? We're talking about bad habits here, okay? Not all habits, obviously. Habits are not bad, just universally, right? I use habits with a capital H. Actually got that from Marcel Proust in his trilogy. He would always write the word habit with a capital H, and that got my attention. I thought that was interesting. How do I know what's going on, right? By noticing my habits, right? And we all are habituated. So mental habits are probably the most pervasive. So what is a good mental habit? A good mental habit is like a positive attitude. A good mental habit would be a quality of openness, right? And of course, the contemplative or spiritual practices, and I maybe should have framed that initially, that contemplative practices are primarily spiritual practices, as opposed to religious, not necessarily opposed, but right, a part of. Spiritual practices are like the kind of like the secret ingredient in all religious traditions, like a little flake of yeast that can enlighten a whole loaf of bread. So we're looking now at what are my kind of spiritual practices? What practices do I have? What attitudes? What opinions? What beliefs do I have that I kind of hold on to or identify with that are going to give me some information about how well my habits are working for me. So mental habits that cause conflict, as I said, or a sense of ill at ease, or not feeling comfortable with ourselves, not having peace of mind, being irritated, frustrated, angry. holding on to resentment. These are all a product of habit. They are kind of the ways that I've trained myself, the ways I've learned to be with myself and learn to be with others. Right? And of course, very closely aligned with physical and mental habits are emotional. I mean, these are all, each one informs the other. Mental habits inform spiritual habits, inform physical habits. Okay. So emotional habits, like we just touched on, would come into then these feelings of anger, irritation, frustration, resentment. And the challenge is how to work with this skillfully. How can I be more skillful with myself, with how I think, how I feel, how I act, in ways that, skillful in ways that are not going to cause me suffering or not allow me to cause suffering to others. So it's obvious that we've all made mistakes. We've all done things that are kind of out of integrity with the Dharma, right? Um, with good spiritual practice. Right? So how do I work with that? How do I understand that? It doesn't really seem to work to feel guilt, although there's a point of guilt that maybe allows us to have remorse, right? And to have renunciation for things that we have done. Right? So there's a skillful or wisdom edge to guilt, no question. But we don't want to live there. We don't want to just keep feeling guilt and not really know how to work with that, or shame, something like that, or anger, right? Because we'll end up feeling negative about ourselves, about our situation, about others. And it's not helpful. It's not helpful for our awakening. So the Dharma is kind of giving us this framework that we can look at ourselves rather than through the eyes of guilt or shame or anger or frustration or resentment. We can kind of take a different view. And so what mainly what the Dharma is doing is kind of guiding us in a direction to have a view that is accurate, is true, is honest, okay? Not something that's just a product of our life conditioning. Okay. So what is that? What is that view? And it begins with verifying for ourselves that let's say we're a good person. I mean, I think in our heart of hearts, we know that we're a good person. You know, that we want to love and we want to be loved. We want to have loving relationships, right? It's just that we're real selective about that. I only want to love in a certain way, or I only want to have certain kinds of relationship, or a certain kind of person. You know. So we start limiting ourselves. Our mental, emotional habits start kind of limiting our options. You know, who's acceptable, who's unacceptable, who's loving and who's not. And it's that limitation that is getting us into trouble, causing us to be partial, right? Bias, even prejudice. Right? And when Jesus gave the teaching to love your neighbor as you love yourself, what that commandment is inviting us to do is to love unconditionally. And the Buddha is saying the same thing. All the great masters, all the great teachers are essentially saying the same thing. That our capacity is to love unconditionally. And that we suffer because we've limited ourselves in terms of that capacity, that ability to be unconditionally loving. So the challenge is, it has to begin with us. If I don't embody love, if I don't embrace it as who I am, it's going to be very difficult to be genuinely loving of others and to genuinely allow them to love us. So this is our practice. Okay. Dharma practice increases our capacity to unconditionally love, to be unconditionally loving. Okay. How does it do this? How can I work with these habits that are unskillful? I come back to this ground, this basis of what is my true nature? Who am I truly? And of course, the fact that I have this capacity for unconditional love tells me that an essential ingredient of my true nature is virtue. Virtue. How do you understand that? You know, what terms, what thoughts come up around this notion of virtue? What immediately comes to mind? We mentioned loving. Right? Virtue is love, right? Maybe essentially love. So how does that show itself? How does that display? Well, love is kind. Love is patient, generous, open, accepting. Right? Love has all these qualities. Right? Love is wise. Love is wisdom. So I have this capacity for all of these qualities, don't I? And it's not, I don't necessarily have to have all of these qualities at once, but any one of these qualities is going to allow me to kind of recognize this virtue quality that's at the heart of my being, in my heart of hearts. As the Hindus refer to this, there's a cave in our heart that is just love. Okay. So how do I do this? How do I recognize these habits? How do I recognize this quality of virtue? We do it by paying attention, by being aware, by involving ourselves in a practice that allows us to increase this capacity for greater awareness, to have a certain level of concentration, being able to kind of remain attentive to how I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, right? Be more aware of what I'm about to say or what I'm about to do. And then I have this measure of virtue in terms of the choice that I make of what am I going to do, what am I going to say, how am I going to feel. Right? We have a choice about these things. We have a choice to be more virtuous, to not say or do or feel or even think things that are out of integrity with virtue. Okay. We have a choice about that. There's nothing compelling me, obligating me to be out of integrity with virtue. Well, maybe peer pressure, but the biggest pressure that we have on us to be out of integrity with virtue is habit. It's just I'm in the habit of thinking this way, feeling this way, believing this way. So then it comes back to how can I have a greater skill, greater acuity, greater integrity with how I think and how I feel, so that I can then make that choice to not do things that are not going to be beneficial to my awakening, to do things that will be beneficial to my awakening. Okay. And again, it's my ability to be aware. In the Buddhist tradition, we refer to this as my ability to observe the mind. Okay. And the single greatest practice in allowing me to do this is meditation. So this brings us to a whole different topic, doesn't it? We kind of know how to study, right? We seek out books, we seek out resources, people, maybe of a particular faith, whatever we are, of a particular tradition. So we kind of have this sense of how to study. We kind of know how to study. But again, we may have bad study habits, so we're going to want to make sure we take time, like a good Christian is going to take time studying the Bible, going to make time to study the Bible. It's going to be a priority in their life. So it's no different with any other faith, right? There are many sacred texts. If you're a good Muslim, you're going to study the Quran. You're going to really want to know, dig deep into the wisdom that's offering, right? And so the same is in all these traditions. Now, accessibility to these resources may be limited. So this may take some work, right? To find somewhere where we can, get these resources. We offer this for Buddhist practitioners. With Project Clear Light, we offer a resource list that has a list of resources that you can order and books and whatever correspondence courses, etc. So you want to take advantage of these resources so that you can really improve your study habits. Right? Setting a particular time every day where you're just going to be studying, just going to be reading and studying and going over. And by the same token, picking a time every day to meditate. Good meditation in the morning, meditation in the evening, study in the morning, study in the evening. Right? So we kind of have an idea about good study habits. Contemplative habits, contemplation is just kind of thinking, right? But the tendency to kind of get lost in thoughts or to get distracted in thoughts or whatever is easy. And it's easy to get distracted. And also, we may not have the confidence to really go deeply within ourselves. Really take a deep and honest look at who and what we are. So it comes to the meditation. The meditation, we want to do well. We want to do proper meditation. So I just want to talk for a few moments about that. Of course, the first lesson, the first instruction, I should say, in terms of proper meditation is giving ourselves permission to sit still. Even this is a challenge. We're used to kind of moving around, But in our meditation, we're kind of giving ourselves permission to sit still. Get a comfortable, arrive on your seat, kind of, I'm coming to where I am at this moment, making myself comfortable, so that I can sit still without feeling like I have to move or shift around. Right? So that's our kind of the first instruction is to sit still. And that can be challenging, right? Because the mind will wander and next thing we know, we're scratching an itch or, whatever. So something helpful in terms of sitting still is not moving your hands. So just give yourself permission just to sit still and not move your hands. Okay? That can be very helpful. So these instructions, like I say, I'm not making these up. These are coming through the tradition. They're very old because they work. Okay? They're incredibly powerful instructions that will allow you to meditate. Okay? So at this point, I'd actually like you to maybe do some meditation. So I invite you to pause the screen, and um, and then do a little bit of personal meditation, just where you're sitting, and it's very easy. It's no, it's easier. Let me say it that way. To meditate in a group, where you have everybody around you is doing the same thing, sitting still, not moving their hands. Right? That makes it easier because we're getting strength from that. It's like fellowship. That's how it works. This is the power of what we call sangha or group practice. Is sitting still as a group. So make yourself comfortable, close your eyes, and just observe your body. You're holding your hands still, so just scan the body. Um, Start at the top of your head and just kind of move down to the head, the face, any tension or tightness, any sensations you notice. Just observe these without reacting to them, without feeling like you have to kind of hold on to one or push something away. Right? Allowing the face, the mouth to relax, shoulders to relax. And just going down through your body, noticing any tension, any tightness. And just giving yourself permission to allow it to relax. So I invite you to take a deep breath, drawing all the way down into your abdomen, kind of pushing out the pot belly, and holding the breath in the abdomen. And then gently exhaling. And relax the diaphragm and exhale and inhale again. All the way into your abdomen, holding the abdomen. All the energy, all the attention, all the effort is in the abdomen. Pushing it out and holding the breath, holding. Inhale a little bit more, holding. And releasing. And as you exhale, completely exhale, push out all the air. And hold the breath out for a moment. Inhaling again, relax the diaphragm. Inhale again, initiating the next inhale, drawing all the way down to the abdomen. Holding. And exhaling, completely exhaling, holding the breath out. And then allow the body to resume its natural rhythm, its natural breathing rhythm. Scanning the body, just aware of the body breathing itself, nourishing itself, purifying itself. The natural body just relaxing itself, natural breath just breathing itself. So move through the body, maybe systematically, starting at the top of your head, scanning the body, the head, the face, the neck, the shoulders, the body, Just noticing any tension or tightness, any sensation. Not trying to hold on to one thing or push away another. If you get distracted, just gently bring your attention back to the body, scanning the body for tension and tightness. Notice how the body releases itself on the out breath. Nothing to change, nothing to improve, nothing to transform. Just breathing. Okay, welcome back. Take a stretch. You want to stand up and kind of move your shoulders, stretch a little bit. So I just want to review a little bit. We talked about kind of what the Dharma is, how we're learning from life, learning to observe our habits, physical, mental, emotional habits, and how we're learning to frame our experience in the context of our innate goodness, what we call virtue, and our ability to awaken, which is the quality of awareness. So when you're scanning the body, when you're aware of how you're breathing, aware of sensations, this is awareness. It's all awareness. You're just sitting, just breathing, just relaxing, as awareness. You're aware of how you're breathing, sensations in the body, the urge to want to move your hands. You're aware of thoughts, sounds, perceptions arising and dissolving. The sensation in the body arising. And if you stay with it, dissolving. This is the power of awareness, what we call presence, just being present to our experience. Nothing to remember from the past, nothing to project into the future, just allowing ourselves to be fully present to how we're experiencing our experience. So these are our two essential qualities, awareness and virtue. These are qualities that are with us regardless of where we've been, what we've done, what we've thought, how we've felt. Regardless of anything, these are kind of true qualities that exist in all of us, exist in everyone. And what we'll notice is maybe when we're unaware, there's a whole maybe something, a gap or something where we're kind of got lost in like an old habit, an old thought, an old feeling, old attitude, right? Maybe where we reacted to something going on around us, right? We just kind of weren't aware that we had a choice in that moment of how we felt, what we were thinking, and what we were about to do. We'll start verifying this, that this is true for us. So I'm not asking you to take my word for this. I'm just offering you um, some suggestion on how to approach the path of awakening. So we notice when we're kind of unaware. We notice when maybe when we were less than virtuous, out of integrity, as I like to say, with virtue. When we were thinking certain thoughts that maybe were not so kind, not so generous, not so compassionate, or when we did things that said things or did things. So this is kind of, we're reframing our life experience now. The Dharma is giving us this different framework. It's kind of putting on putting on a different pair of glasses. Kind of oh, okay, that's how it is. Okay. All right. So I'm sure you have questions, and I wish I was sitting right there with you, not just virtually, but actually in presence where we could take questions. But I mean, if you want to write to me, you're welcome to do so. Project Clear Light, 2220 Post Office Street, Galveston, 77550. But let your questions go into, internalize your questions. Is this true? Is this how it is? Right? And I like to say, all your questions will be answered on the cushion. I know you guys don't have cushions, but on your seat, on your Buddha seat, on your meditation seat, all your questions will be answered. But again, if you want to write to me, that's fine. All right. Well, I'm going to end this here, and I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to be here with you and to present it even in this form. And so we'll end with a traditional dedication, okay? May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and sorrow and the causes of suffering and sorrow. May we all remain undivided from the sacred joy, free from sorrow. And all together, in this moment, may we realize the great equanimity beyond attachment and aversion. May our feet always be on the path. May our hearts be open, our minds clear, and all of our activities beneficial.